Today we're going to be showing how to create unique companies out of previously it was unique interactions from our email seen here. We got all these emails in. This is who was on the email chain. We use that to create unique emails, or as we're calling it, unique contacts in our contacts database. In this video, we're going to be showing how to take those unique contacts and turn them into unique companies. So Charlie's been leading the way on this last one. And Charlie, if you want to talk through some of the complexities that we're going to have to do, and maybe a little bit of the how on how we're going to try to come up with unique companies from this list.
Yeah, so companies are a bit tricky because companies sometimes change their email domains. You might have some employees that wrote to you when they first joined the company and it was at thebeatles.com. And then 3 years later, it's at Beatles.com. And there's now two domains, and you could technically still like write to whichever one you want, but you might receive emails from either or domain. So there's complexity here, but we've now normalized all these interactions into their emails. This really isn't the contacts table. It doesn't have to be. It could be, but in reality, there's probably one more layer where we want to create a contacts table. A contact technically could have multiple emails over time. Like there's a couple of reasons why you would do this, but I usually would then link like a contact has an email field, right? And then this has been at op. And then obviously here we want to do the same thing and normalize. Let's get that special email formatting field.
So what we did in the last video was that formula field he just copied and pasted. It makes everything lowercase, takes out leading and trailing spaces, and takes out any spaces in between. So Charlie's saying it normalizes the data. It really cleans it up, makes it look pretty, and makes it easier for Airtable to digest as we're brute forcing
Yeah.
Airtable into dealing with our data.
Yeah, and best of all, it also dedupes, which is like to
Hmm.
your point, Ben, one of the most powerful things that this function does is like if I delete this and the automation runs, there's technically Ben listed twice in this list, but when I open this, he's only listed once, which is great, which means I know that this table won't have the same problem where I'm searching for an email from a contact and linking it. So like now I can run an automation that goes from the emails table and finds a contact. So emails, when we should actually link the emails table now to contacts. I guess, what do you think, Ben? Do you think there should be another table here for contacts?
I think there should be. I think at some point though, the automations can take you pretty far, but only so far, and even like AI could take you maybe slightly further if you asked it to make some judgments based on fuzzy matches. But I think at some point there needs to be like a human in the loop, is what Airtable typically calls it, where they say, okay, Ben at OptimizeIS and green.benjamin.ra at gmail.com, those actually are the same contact. But
Gotcha.
like I think our if I was building this, it would likely create two separate contacts, and I would either live with it or try to dedupe it or use like a secondary email field, or I'm not sure. But I think there's some sort of like human element that needs to be introduced there to properly ensure you have
Yeah,
unique contacts.
there's actually, you bring up a good point, which is it really depends on the context of the workflow of what you want to keep. Because this could be an automation that receives all your emails into Airtable and then looks to see is there a contact associated with any of the people in one of these emails. And if there is, then I want to save this email. If there isn't a contact associated with this email, it's a voucher for a new refrigerator at the local store, and it comes in and doesn't find a contact in my CRM. It kind of came, took a peek, and then it deletes itself and removes itself if it's not contextual. Um, that's one kind of like workflow that a client might ask for and say, that's all I need. I have this list of people. If it's not related to these people, I don't need it in the base. Another one is kind of like where I'm bringing everything in. If I don't find a match, that's where, to your point, Ben, there's a manual intervention that says, do I want to link this person manually? Do I want to blacklist this email and say this is unwanted and delete anything from this domain that ever comes in again? And you can now have a domains table that controls this. So that's kind of like the middle ground. And then the last one is just, yeah, anything that comes in, if you don't find a contact, create a contact. If you don't find a company with that domain, create a company. I want to ingest everything and I'll deal with it after, how I delete things and how I keep things. So there's like that whole spectrum. And I guess in this case, maybe we'll leave it in the middle. I'm not sure.
I think a little bit of it depends on your patience and your like. It's like, how much do you value wanting to have the cleanest possible database versus, well, that's going to require some time from you, versus cleaning up the database is not what you want to spend time on. Then you just want it to, like, 99% of the time it's going to get it right. If you have some duplicate contacts, you're not going to be too upset, and you can like clean those on an ad hoc basis. I like, if we speak to the CRM that Charlie and I built, I lean on the, I don't want to focus on deduping. And so now Charlie and I have a bunch of like duplicate contacts because like emails are, people change their emails, or we have people's personal emails as a contact and their business email as a separate contact. So, and then that also carries over to companies as well. We have a lot of companies that are like not unique, different variations of emails. And I don't know if we'll get into subdomains in this video, but I've noticed subdomains have kind of wreaked havoc in our database. Like, as an example, it's like, let's take like academy.airtable.com, if that's one of their subdomains. If I get an automated email from that, but I also get an email from somebody at airtable.com, I don't know if we want to deal with that, but
I think we could, not in this video, but I think we could figure out that automation, because it's basically, is there two periods after the at? And if there are, then remove the middle, after, in the first one. If there aren't, then just show at Airtable.
Yeah.
Or at the last domain.
So what's this automation we're building here?
So in this case, when an email record gets created, I want to see if that contact already exists in the system, is what we're doing right now. So we're going to find a record. This is a beautiful brand new feature. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it right now. I'm going to find contacts where the email for automation, so that we can clean up. And remember, on the other table, it's already cleaned up, contains the name. Contacts is empty, and that's fine. Let's just choose a record. There we go. I found the record, and then I want to update the original. Yeah, you did this well in our CRM with that like multi-step, where, was it you? Was it me? I don't remember. Where it went through these processes.
Oh yes, I remember this. We could probably show that as an example, because we built these same automations there.
Yeah, the important thing when I'm getting these emails as well is like, is there a contact associated with this, is one question. But the other question is like, is there a company associated with this domain? So the next thing we want to do is extract the domain from here. So I'm going to create a formula that is going to extract the right, so use the right function from the name. And then this is where right gets tricky. It's going to be the length of the name minus find the at within name. And I think it's always -1, but we can always do that after. Okay, so that did it good. So that now extracts the domains. Why don't you put an ugly domain in here, Ben? I think we can do this right now. All right, so let's do this at subset@gmail.com.
You think so? I guess, yeah.
I mean, if we can edit the video in case it takes us 30 minutes. Let's see.
Let's do it now. I think the people want the formula.
Okay, so let's just start like in the ugliest form of this, which is find a period in the calculation field, which we can rename that now. Okay. And now, so we know that the first period happens here. The next thing is going to say, now find a period, but starting from, so find the period in domain extracted, but the start from position, which is this very special thing here, I'm actually going to use where I found this last period. And I think if this returns a number, yeah. There we go. So now I can see which ones have that. And I can see where that period is. And I also remember where this was. So if this is greater than 0, I want to extract the right of this. So let's just try that. If this is greater than 0, I want to extract from the right of domain extracted, the length of domain extracted minus find.
And by the way, if you didn't follow what Charlie just did, there will be a link in the description to a copy of this base with this formula. So if you didn't follow that, you can copy. We should be able to make a cleaner version of this formula where it's maybe even all in one at the end of this. But trust me, if you didn't follow along, keep watching. We'll give a cleaned up version of this.
Yeah, sorry if I lose anybody watching with this. And this actually, like I was thinking about this earlier, like math is very similar to this, like where people can replace formulas, like X is actually this formula, and you can have this complex thing and make it very simple and elegant. When you're beginning and you're just like testing the logic, it's okay to be ugly and then start to substitute things. If I wanted to, I could even like get this domain extracted and then paste that into all of these domain extracteds, right, to make one massive formula, or I can have multiple formulas to make it one beautiful little thing at the end, but then you're maintaining all these like sub things in other places. I tend to make it just complicated and then deal with it with one formula.
Yeah.
Versus having multiple formulas. But okay, so now we have this. So if we find that it's greater than 0, we want to put that. Otherwise, let's just put domain extracted.
And so what Charlie's saying there, if we look at like the whole formula as a whole, there's an if statement. Can you explain how, like I see there's a little descriptor on the left, but how does an if statement work with like the 3 things?
Yeah, so if basically says if this first before the comma like proposition is true, then I want to return this. Otherwise, I want to return something else. And in this case, we said if I find that, sorry, if I find that there are, is that right?
Yep.
If I find that there is an additional period in the domain extracted, then I want to only extract the domain and not the subset part of that domain. If I don't find that there's multiple and it's just a normal email, then I could put just the domain. So that's what this if statement is saying. So, like, technically this is the domain extracted. So I feel like at the end of the day, I will unfortunately make this just more complicated and put this into all of these. I don't know. It kind of is a little bit overwhelming. That's kind of the trade-off of making these formulas is,
I think for the people getting the link, if they want the formula, it's probably easier if they just copy one formula. So if you just put it all into one, that would probably be best.
and this is a nice trick too. If I want to replace all of them, so all the domain extracted with this new formula, so I'll do Command F, bring this little thing down, paste what I want to replace it with. And I think it's this one, right, Ben?
Yep, that does all of them.
Yeah. So that now should make this formula independent. And now we have a domain, and we can deal with subsets, even very short subsets. Let's see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
This is something I just kept on noticing it in our database, and I never brought it up. But I'm so glad that we solved it on this. We will also be using this formula for those watching. We will update our CRM with this.
Yeah, I feel like we should just have these meetings when we want to work on our things that we still need to do in our own system. So now that we have the domain extracted, this is where we can start linking domains to companies. And I'll create a companies table. And yeah, it's kind of like a chicken and an egg thing. Like, do companies, when you create a company, do you create like a domain field? Probably not. It's probably a roll-up array unique of the underlying interactions, like the domains. But let's see. Companies, links to. I guess that's the other thing is like domains should be its own table. Is the other thing that we've done. So emails is its own table, and then domains is its own table. And I know that some people will be like, this is so many tables. And it kind of goes to Ben's point, like just what's the cleanest way to do it where it's the most accurate and most accountable.
So yeah, the benefit of doing it the way Charlie's doing it, yeah, it creates a little bit of mess by having more tables, but it's the trade-off between I want the cleanest data possible by making Airtable do the most work, while sacrificing maybe like ideally nobody's even looking at the data layer. Once we would be done with building this sort of a CRM, everybody would be operating at the interface layer, and they don't even need to know that the domains table exists or that the emails table exists. The purpose of these tables is purely just for the like having Airtable churn through these emails using just their native functionality, because we want to avoid duplicates. So these tables, like we use these same tables, it's just nobody on our team, unless they're like helping us build our systems, nobody on our team knows that these tables exist.
So let's link these tables. So domains will link to emails. And where domains is empty, so similar to the last video, I just want this to trigger and update the email domain with that special domain extracted field. Very, very special.
So before we go and do that, I want to call out another issue, is that And this is something that came up when we were building our CRM. So the issue that came up for us was somebody reached out to us using the email green.benjamin.ra. Somebody else reached out to us using cmelly90@gmail.com. If we just go based on the domain, like if we take this a few steps into the future, that's going to create like one unique company for that. So I guess, is there anything we should do now to like think about how that's going to impact us once we get to the companies table, Charlie?
Yeah, you basically, to your point, you don't need to match certain domains, or you also can just flag certain domains as a certain type and still let the pasting happen. I think that's the way that I would typically do it, but there is a way where you stop this automation to say like if this is like Gmail, then be blank, or if it's other things that just don't show. I think for now, like we're going to sync it to the domains table, and then that's going to give us control at the domains table level to start classifying them and giving them importance, whitelisting them, blacklisting these domains to like stop them from progressing into future automations, or delete themselves altogether. Delete this interaction if it links to a domain that we've blacklisted. We don't. This doesn't pertain to our business, right?
Yep.
So let's run this on all of these. So I'm going to just delete and then bring it back.
And I think actually, now that I'm thinking about it, not like allowing gmail.com to go into the domains table rather than writing all the our like common domains to flag into a formula, it may actually be easier to like just add a checkbox to the domains table and like make it more dynamic than that, because people don't like want, you don't want to go into a formula to like add icloud.com or hotmail.com.
Exactly. It's easier to maintain over here. Like you can have a single line text, single select that's like blacklist. Wait, sorry. This will be
Maybe generic.
what I did before for another client's CRM was I made it more of like the purgatory, where if something comes in and doesn't link to a domain that's linked to a company, it just stays there. And he has this list of domains that he needs to blacklist and whitelist. It's just like it hasn't been classified yet. And like once a week, or he has somebody on his team go into the system, go into that interface and look at those, like what are the interactions linked? Are they important? Are they spam? And then if they pick blacklist, then it just goes and automatically deletes those interactions linked to it. In our case, it could also prevent any contacts being created. If they whitelist this domain, that then goes and automates the process to create contacts for all these people, maybe enrich it with online data using AI or an API, something like that. Let's just see. So this would be like whitelist, this would be blacklist, and this is because I'm getting sales promotions from, do we have the automation to start linking to the company? Let's see. I guess, is that where you want to go from here? Linking domains to companies?
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, because this helps for the overall automation. So now if I can link this to, this is generic, so it doesn't link to a company. Yeah, so I guess like the assigning of domains to companies is a manual thing, would you say? Because again, in the companies table, I don't know if I'm going to have an email or like a domain field that when someone creates a company, they're like, they're writing it here. Sometimes maybe there are workflows that have that,
So
but I think
if I was doing, actually, I think when we did this for our base, what what I did was to start. I took I tried to come up with a list of all of the generic domains that I could. So I came up with a list that looks like I'll just like read some of them off if those watching want to use these. You can gmail.com, hotmail.com, outlook.com, yahoo.com, icloud.com, test.com because I use test.com, and then gmail.com or gmail.con because sometimes it gets misspelled. Like instead of com, ends with an N. So that was the first thing that I did. And then I didn't want to, like, I would probably personally worry about blacklisting as like a after, as an afterthought. I don't want personally for our CRM, I don't want to like staff somebody on doing a task every week. I don't value the data being to that level of clean. Um, so I would, if a new domain comes in here and the status is empty, I would probably have it default to whitelist and go create a company. And then I would worry about deduping companies like maybe once a quarter or something, or whenever if I see it and it's really bothering me, I would go and do that. Um, but that's the way that I would do it because I don't want to have there be like a delay in the company being created.
interesting. So, so there is no validation to see if the company exists. Like a new domain record gets created, Nordstrom.com, it just goes and automatically creates company.
I guess unless there's something that already
Yeah, like,
matches Nordstrom.com. Exactly.
but that's like the chicken and the egg. Then this domain would have already existed. You know what I mean? Like then it wouldn't have been created in this like waterfall
I guess
thing.
there's a chance there could be an event where I add a company from, or I add a record to the companies table from a form, and I choose to put the domain as the company name. So it already exists there, but I haven't received emails from them. It's like if I hear from somebody that we're going to have a lead from one of these companies, then I'll throw them into the companies table with their domain.
Okay. So you'd put the domain as the name.
Yeah.
Is that what we want to do in this space?
I guess like for those watching, this is like the kind of decisions we're going through all the time and like trying to walk customers through is like there's technically not one right way to do this. It's really wherever you lie on that spectrum of like how much manual work you want to do versus how much manual work you don't want to do or how much you value the data being super super clean versus not. So I'll let you decide for this one, Charlie.
Yeah, so we have domains. Domains, let's see. To your point, we don't want to have somebody coming in and like creating companies once a week as a task. So I think I agree with you. Like if it doesn't exist already, just create a company with that domain. Um, and then dedupe after, because what could happen is that doesn't solve for one company having multiple domains. Like let's create a new one, which is like we get the optimize.com. And so now optimize IS is linked to both companies, sorry, both domains. And like the whole goal of all this linking of data is at the end of the day to connect the contact to the right company and the interactions to the right companies and contacts. That's the end goal. So let's kind of bring everything back to that. So the goal is when an interaction happens that I can link this to the right companies and to the right contacts. So if we go back and say that domains should just create a company if it doesn't find it. So we need one more automation. to create a record when this happens, where the name will be that domain extracted, and the interactions, the domain will be the trigger record. I'm thinking, can I link this company to the interactions too from here? I'm just like getting into a bit of a fog on this one.
I think this was actually an area where I ran into issues. Was
Oh, it's overwriting it. No, it doesn't make sense.
well, like this thought process or this step in the process gave me issues because sometimes the interaction comes in and basically there needs to be some sort of a delay mechanism because maybe two of the companies exist or two of the contacts exist, but two of them don't. But like in our trigger, like if I think about the next automation we're going to create, like the lookup on the interactions table to the contacts from emails or domains is not empty already, but not all of them are not empty. So I would probably wait, and then maybe we like come up with a count the completeness of the people who were emailed and do it at the like triggering from the interaction step.
Gotcha. Okay. So we create the company. Let's do that. So like this one, let's just put somebody random there, and then delete it and delete it so it triggers. Okay, so we have these companies now. And like contacts should link to companies, would you say? I don't see why not, to just enrich all the data.
Yep.
Okay. So now from the emails table, we're going to look up the company that it created or matched to. And then in the contacts table, we're going to look up the company from the domain that it was linked to. And now this is one automation to stamp this company over here. That's its own automation. Should just happen once when a contact is created and linked to that. So I'll go over here and create a new automation. So you see, like sometimes you look at a base that has 0 automations. That's like a mature base, or like it's not 0, but like a few. And I can't imagine. Like there's so many things that automations do to like keep systems functioning.
Yeah.
So link company to contact. This is going to be in the contacts table where we have that lookup, which is where the company from domains from emails is not empty and the company is empty. All right, so let's go and update. So when this and this, we want to update the record. Okay. So let's just do this and that so that runs that automation.
So what are your thoughts on how we handle here the generic when the domain was a generic domain?
Good point. So at the domain level, if it's generic, we should not link that to the contact. So I would say on this email lookup of companies, we want to filter this to say only show where status is none of, generic, or blacklist even.
So I have personal opinions on blacklist because I've been like caught on this. I have this make scenario where it ingests all of my emails, and I used to like think I would never receive emails from certain companies, and because like they were like let's say for an example, Zapier. Like when I first started out, because I was in just no code, I was always getting promotional emails from Zapier. So I was like, get that out of my CRM. Or another one, I'm going to use a random example, let's say Toyota. I got a promotional email from Toyota. At the time when I set up the filter, I blacklisted them, but then at a different time in the future, I actually wanted to get their emails into the CRM because maybe I'm trying to prospect them. So I personally ran into like issues where I was like, why am I not seeing I was like banging my head against the wall for like 2 months. Like, why am I not seeing any emails in the system? It's like, oh, I set this filter and blacklisted them like a year ago or 2 years ago. So I would just leave it at generic personally.
So like if we use one of these, you see how now it didn't bring the company, which means it didn't link to that. I guess this is the next thing where if this is like Ben Green as a person, Ben Green is linked to these multiple emails, right? And this is where the question is, or Ben Green gets a new job, hopefully not, with a different domain associated with it. Do we want to link Ben Green to the various companies or just manually keep that? And that brings up its own world. Whenever we ask that question, it's such a powerful question. And I feel like that's what we ask people just all the time is, okay, so now Ben can link to multiple companies. Do you want to track information about that? So he was at this company for this period and this company for this period and this start date and end date. And if so, that's where you need a junction table. So now you'd have like, that's where the magic sauce happens with companies is because they tell us we really need to track this. And you're like, okay, let's get to how do we get to that from your structure? And it's fun when a client's like, yeah, I want to know this contact was at these companies. Okay, that's great. But how do I know from when to where? Were there any complaints associated with them? We have this thing called tickets, and I want to link those to their,
Yep.
work there.
And it really does change for every customer that we deal with. Like if I think of like a physician, maybe if the physicians are the contacts, maybe they care more about keeping all of the interactions tied to the same person throughout their journey because they care more about like the clinician or the physician than the clinic. But other times, like if we're dealing with like if I'm trying to sell B2B, maybe I don't really care. This is not the right way to say it, but I don't care that the interactions are linked to the right person. I really care that they're linked to the right company. I want the interactions to like keep following the right company because it has more of like a trail of that. Like that's who I'm prospecting is the company. So these are important questions, and I think it changes in just about every scenario.
Yeah, and like you care, like you bring up a good point, which is like you go to the doctor's office, they care about your record like as a person. When it's a CRM, like Mark Grisham works at this company, he moves to another company. It's kind of okay if it creates a duplicate record for a new contact in my CRM from Mark Grisham that has this new email who's now associated with this company and is now like these are all the interactions happening. If you tell me like no, that there's a lot of churn in my industry and I want to know Mark Grisham's as a person, where he's been and what interactions have been in all these different entities over time, that's where now we have to break it out. But you might say, no, I don't care about that. I just want to close deals. And now I'm talking to him here. I want to know this context. So yeah, it's kind of like we're like data therapists when we're talking to people. It's like, what do you care about? Tell me what you really feel. What do you care about your data?
Yeah,
we go and make it happen.
Exactly. Jumping back into this, I think what I would add here is I want to know that it's like done trying to find I guess if it is linked to an email here and company is empty, I guess I want to know that it tried to find a company. If we had like a fork in the automation.
No, this just pastes the company. So if it's a Gmail domain, then no company pops out, and it's only going to do it the first time someone gets a company. Like Yeah, if you're now associated with a new company, like say we associate you with the Nordstrom, this is also you for whatever reason. There isn't an automation to say when this is updated, go and paste this over here. Because that now opens up, what do you care? What do you care about? Like if it's where is he now, then it's like you want to manually keep that. Like you want to manually do it. Or it's the most recently created, I guess, but not really. Um, so like the even linking to companies, I'm keeping it simple right now. Just a manual. I'm linking it to this company. I'm going to help you the first time you add a contact, but it's really on you to maintain
Yep.
this. Yeah, because otherwise there'd be an automation that would do this, which is very easy to set up, but what good does that do versus this lookup field here? Um, okay, so we have contacts. So emails still, now they link to contacts and they link to domains from, sorry, companies from the domains. So I feel like we should also stamp the associated companies. I guess here's your point, Ben, of like waiting for all of the underlying connections to happen before you do the stamp, or just having the stamp based on when this field is updated, and it's just going to stamp multiple times because that's just the main point. It's to stamp who are all the contacts associated with this email and who are all the companies associated with this email.
So I think here is where I would add a count field, and I would count the number of domain linked records where they've created a company, whether or not it's like, I don't care whether it's generic or not. But then I know like record 6 and 7, if they just were created, like they're done processing on the back end.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong table, I think. I think this table is okay. It's more this table that has all the linking. Right, I'm looking up now from the emails table, who are the companies that were connected
Yep.
and who are the contacts. And I could just watch these fields and paste whenever they're updated the values. I think we should probably just do it that way. Yeah, so you see sometimes that happens where you create a duplicate field. These little hints over here with two are a good hint that you can just delete that field. Um, and also make sure you delete it in the other table. Okay, so I want to paste the companies and contacts. So let's try this. When a record is updated, table will be interactions, and the fields are going to be companies and contacts. And when either of those fields are just updated, I want to update the interaction record, companies, and contacts. So 6 automations later. I don't know what's going to trigger this. Probably if I like well, I guess if I just undo this and bring it back. But I'd like to test this now with a string of emails with like new emails in it and existing. So I'm gonna do, let's add Jeff at Amazon.com. That's Ben's old friend. And Mark at Facebook.com. So I'm gonna copy this and imagine that we have a new interaction where we're trying to just bring together old pals for a good barbecue. I'm going to paste that right here. This should trigger the automation to start pasting the emails with these new people. Those emails should now create new domains. Those domains should create companies. And those companies, I think, should link to contacts. Not sure if that was supposed to happen or not yet. But now we have a list of the companies associated with this interaction. So optimize Amazon and Facebook, and the contacts. So it looks like we don't have the thing that's creating contacts in there yet.
Yeah, it only has the one contact for a Ben Green. It didn't create a contact for Jeff or Mark from the emails table.
So link contact to email. We did not create a conditional thing to say, if I find someone, link it, otherwise create them. So let's do that. So let's create conditional logic that says, if found equals 1, although that can limit things, but let's just keep it simple. Then I want to do what we already had. Otherwise, I want to create a record in the contacts table where their name is going to be their email. And their email is going to be their email. All right, I think that's good now. So if we were to now put, what was the trigger for that? That was when contacts is empty in the emails table. Let's go and put some contacts here and let that automation run. So now it did create, and actually it should now stamp them here. So there we go. So the automation is nice when it has that. It didn't necessarily wait for that delay, which is probably a good thing, because maybe, like, what if something gets clogged up? Uh-oh. Why did you get... There we go. Is it an infinity loop? No, it can't be.
I just went and created some contacts, is what you did not see. Or I cleared out that contacts field on all of them so that it would run and create some contacts for us.
Make it pretty. Okay, so like now we have a good breakdown where I can go and like a certain domain comes in. Like let's say that now Ben responds to that email and CCs his friend Juan at yahoo.com. And so now we get another breakdown, but this time we have this new Juan at yahoo.com. Uh-oh, it created a yahoo.com company and it linked that company to this interaction, and we don't want that. I think with what we built though, it will actually fix this by just going to the domain and saying, I don't want this, this is generic. And what that should do is now, update this, which is going to paste this. There we go.
Nice.
So yeah, you can catch things. So this is not linked to that, but now I say I go to this email and Juan at Yahoo is actually associated with Facebook. I see here I can't do it. Wait, I guess it'd be at the contact level. Yeah, not at the email level. So at the contact level, we automatically linked into Yahoo, which I guess that should have also undid itself once I made it generic. But let's not be too hard on ourselves, you know? Facebook. So say he works at Facebook. You see, this is the beginning of ugly data though. Like if we wanted to go a step further, then that should clean up a couple things. Like the email that just came into him should no longer link Well, I guess that's fine. The domain. So let's see though. So now we go back. Yeah, let's do a new interaction, but this time it's only going to be with Mr. Juan and, oops, no, I don't want to search that. And we're going to remove Mark because Mark said that it no longer pertains to him. It's just Jeff and Juan's business. So I'm going to paste this new string to not include Facebook and any of the other domains, but it should, ooh, it did not. So company from domains from emails. So this emails, it's linked to the domain, but it shouldn't. It should actually link to the contacts company.
So that's if it's a generic email, it should pull the company from the contact.
Or if this exists. Well, I guess this is ugly here, right? Interesting. Company from domain. Right, we want to override the company associated with this email. It's almost like, and this is going to be ugly because it's going to just bring it in text, and I liked having it in like linked lookup fields. So this is where you'd probably get like record ID strings instead of this lookups. Or could we do it at the automation level?
So what are we trying to solve here?
Well, in this case, he was originally linked to Yahoo. And then we linked him to Facebook. And at the end of the day, I want to be able to paste this string here, which works when it's lookup of linked relationships. But if I want to do an if statement here that says like if companies from contacts, otherwise companies from domains, like this is the right field where I'm able to override at the contact level who this email should be associated with. But that's not true, because what if a contact changes their associated company? This is why this company, because if I remove this optimized IS and now Ben is associated with Nordstrom, I wouldn't want all the historic interactions to update their associated company based on the contact associated. It's more like contextual to the email. So it's not really a lookup to the person and their associated company. It's more associated with the domain. But if the domain is generic, to your point, then we should probably paste in the company, like with just a linked field. That's assuming this is important. Someone from this interaction needing to link to the right company based on the context, given the person's current, like their Yahoo, what do we associate their Yahoo to the right company? So we might be going down a bit of a rabbit hole there that's unnecessary, which is my fault. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good way now to normalize your data, be able to import stuff, whether it's from an automation such as like Outlook email. When an email is received, go ahead and create an interaction, paste all the emails. If you did that and you use these formulas and this combination of tables, right now it would already start to normalize all of your emails that are coming in to the right companies, to the right domains. You can start classifying domains and companies and then customizing it to your liking. We spoke about that spectrum and how you can kind of choose where you want to be on that spectrum. And I think I agree with your point, Ben, of ingest everything, classify what you can so that it's good enough. The 95% is good enough for your workflows. And the 5% that's not okay is just kind of just junk data that you're never looking at anyways, and is easy to purge in the future.
I want to see this run on all of them.
Did you delete? We should have deleted everything on all the tables.
Yeah, I thought we'd have to turn off all the automations, I think, for it to work really seamlessly.
I mean, let's do it. Wait, I'll turn them off.
I will get started on. I may leave the generic emails, though. The ones noted as generic. Gmail and Yahoo.
So we could just like delete all these emails. Yeah, there you
Okay.
go. Okay, so Ben, you're just gonna basically delete all of these text fields and then repaste them, right? And that's gonna trigger all the linking downstream. And we've only indicated that these are 2 domains that we don't want or that we don't care about.
That's the dream. Hopefully. If everything goes to plan, it'll work.
Let's see if we can live the dream.
Okay, so let's delete all of them. And I just turned the automations on. So I just deleted them.
All right, here we go. Creating these emails. Emails are creating domains. Domains are creating companies. Emails are creating contacts that are then populating their companies. And then interactions are linking to the various companies associated with interactions and the various contacts associated with the interaction.
So it looks like the one room for improvement, maybe for another video, is those generic companies. So if I look at the company's linked record, I think in our next video, what I would probably do is I would go build some logic in there because I'm lazy in our CRM. I want it to go create companies for each. If a contact comes in with a Gmail or with a generic email, I want it to go create a company. Because I don't want to have to use, I think you'll get more decision fatigue than anything if you have to make that kind of a decision on, is this a existing company or not? So I'd prefer it to go do that. That way on the interactions table, there's just 4 records where there's no company currently. That's the only thing we've missed in this one. You're on mute, Charlie.
And you would create a company like Juan@yahoo.com, right?
Yeah.
So you just create a company like that, and this one here, maybe put it with those brackets and things to make it fancy.
Yep. Yeah. I think in the example of our CRM, sometimes we got the name of the people. So if I had the name, I would make the company the person's name and their email, because some people use like weird emails from when they were like 10 and it's like cheeseburger27@gmail.com and you're like, who's cheeseburger27? So sometimes if I have their name, I'll do a little concatenation, but otherwise it'll be this. If you got value out of this, though, there should be a link in the description. You can come get any of the formulas, go inspect how any of the automations were built. Just go down in the description, or I think it'll be in the pinned comment. You'll put your email in and you'll get a link to this base that you can duplicate into your own workspace and take all of this. So any last comments before we jump off, Charlie?
No, I mean, this can seem daunting and like trying to follow like why we did certain automations, but hopefully you can see through our thought process why we did it. We don't want to overcomplicate things to overcomplicate them, but we want it to be good data at the end, where if I put up a nice fancy interface on this system at the end, everything is just linking up for you automatically. And like we've already done all the thinking for you up front. And you're not going into this back end and like going through these tables to see why we've done things the way they have. So yeah, that's all I'd say.
Well, we got through in our allotted time, Charlie, 1 out of the 3 video ideas that we had for the hour and a half today. So if you want a link to this base, we spent a lot of time on it. Go check out the link in the description. Hopefully, get value out of that massive formula that does wonders to email domains. Go check it out in the description. If you want any of the automations, you can go get that from the description. And the next video on the end screen here should be a link to a video where we go through those generic emails and having it just adding that next step where generic emails also create companies. So hope you got value out of this video. We'll see you in the next one.